Chapter 1. A Need Expressed. It was a typical Sunday morning. Julia and I had rushed out the door with our 4 littles. How little, you ask? 4 years of age and under. No, Sunday mornings are not restful for us, and we thank you for asking. We do sometimes fantasize about living a Sabbatarian lifestyle, but then we remember that someone needs to feed, dress, wipe down, and carry these kids to the well-loved and very full swagger wagon. That's what we call our 2010 Toyota Sienna minivan. This typical frazzled Sunday morning found me half paying attention to Pastor Dan's announcements and half paying attention to cute baby Luke nestled on Mom's lap. 2-year-old Joey was in nursery, and 4-year-olds Anne and Aaliyah were quite adequately represented in the thunderous and supposedly joyful noises coming from 20-plus Redeemer Rangers in Kids Church at the bottom of the staircase just outside our small auditorium. Dan's announcements droned on as only Sunday morning announcements for tired parents can. No offense meant here for poor Dan. I must have looked up halfway through an announcement just in time to hear the term Lauren's Army. What a silly name, I was thinking, as Dan went on talking about how we needed to pray for our brother, Lauren, who was in need of a kidney transplant, and who had, with the help of his transplant team at Presbyterian St. Luke's, started this thing called Lauren's Army to help raise awareness and hopefully find a living donor for a kidney transplant. I had never even heard of a living organ donation, or if I had never paid attention enough to realize that this was a thing. I looked past Julia and baby Luke to my left and noticed Lauren for the first time I can remember. Lauren is a quiet, unassuming man in his mid-60s. Sitting there during this announcement about him, I noticed that he had light brown thinning hair gently combed to one side, soft, kind eyes, a joyful, grandfatherly potbelly adorning his otherwise average frame, and sort of a pleasant half-smile that welcomed a few dozen darting eyes that shot out at him from around the full auditorium. Dan continued to read on about his failing kidneys and need for a donor, preferably a living donor, as the most severe cases of renal failure dominated the market on decedent donors. Anyone who knew of an interested potential hero for Lauren should simply ask that person to send a note to the email on this card, and Lauren would be saved to live a happy, healthy, dialysis-free life. What a great concept, I must have been thinking. Isn't it nice that someone will someday help Lauren? Passed through my mind as the kids' shouts and songs rang out from the narrow staircase on my right. Dan finished his announcements and began in a slow prayer, including a time for confession, adoration, praise, and petition as only a lay pastor in a style that only a small Reformed Baptist congregation can relate to. As we lifted Lauren to the throne of the sovereign creator and healer, I felt it. Razor blades digging in between my 4th and 5th rib on my left side. Had I been stabbed? Was I shot by a sniper perched up in the PA booth? Had a rabid pit bull sneaked into the sanctuary and decided to snack on my ribs? Dan's prayer drowned out as I opened my eyes to discover the source of extreme discomfort. Julia, my sweet little auburn-haired wife, baby in hand, head down in a posture of corporate prayer, was looking right at me with raised eyebrows. "What?" I whispered, knowing exactly what. She whispered something. "Huh?" I said, craning to hear better. "We should get tested," she said again. "For what?" As if I didn't know. "To see if one of us is a match for Lauren." Hold that image, if you will. Julia and I, baby in hand, pretending as if we were praying, but silently flirting with a living organ donation. A living organ donation for a man that I had barely ever even noticed and can't remember even seeing prior to this frazzled, half-present Sunday morning service. Heads bowed and eyes locked, as Dan continued in prayer, I honestly couldn't think of a reason to shoot Julia down, and I didn't want a reason. The razor blade pain faded into a peaceful realization that this was the leading of the Spirit. This was one of those very special times in our married life where what the Spirit was impressing on one of us, He was also impressing on the other. In that moment, we were unified. We were one flesh. We were a part of the body of Christ being led to minister to another. We had no idea what we were silently agreeing to, but we knew it was right and that we were supposed to bless Lauren, who we barely knew.